What's up, you guys? Kalvin here, and welcome back to my channel, where today I'm going to be talking about something that a lot of people think I believe, but I don't actually believe, which is that trans men can't be feminine. People tweet at me all the time and post things about me all the time and say this, that, and the other, saying that I think that every single trans guy that is even slightly feminine is not trans or transgender, which is not true at all. There are feminine trans guys that I'm friends with, okay? I don't think that at all, to clear that up. But in this video, I want to talk about the difference between presenting feminine and presenting female, okay? And I also want to touch on dysphoria and the word transgender, because I feel like I get a lot of critique. Someone says they're dysphoric, but I still will call them a transgender, or the word transgender as a whole being a stupid term, which I agree with, but I'm gonna explain why I use it. So first, with the whole trans men can't be feminine thing, this also goes for trans women can't be masculine. It's not just on one side. If I saw a trans woman who presents completely as a male and doesn't like presenting as a female, it literally roles completely reversed. Now, I'm not talking about people who can't transition, who are in a bad family situation, who financially can't. I'm not talking about those circumstances. I'm talking about people who literally, if they wanted to, could transition, pass socially, present as a male or female, but choose to present as their gender assigned at birth, and choose to be completely okay with walking around in society being misgendered, and they don't care. If you are somebody who, number one, presents completely as the gender you were assigned at birth, and number two, you can walk around society and comfortably be called she if you're AFAB, or he if you're AMAB, and you're completely fine with that, you are not trans. You can say you have dysphoria all you want. I have dysphoria about my uterus. Having dysphoria about your internal organs is a real thing, but just having dysphoria about having a uterus isn't dysphoria. The difference is people with dysphoria about those things are like, I don't want a uterus, but I do want testes and all the male internal organs. It's not the fact that I have a baby making machine inside of me. The issue is that I don't have a male baby making machine inside of me. And if you were non-binary, I can understand not wanting either one, but still, if you're non-binary and you identify as a non-binary male, I understand you can easily get your friends and people that you interact with online to call you a he. But if you're completely fine with walking around in society being called a she, and you don't do anything to change it and it doesn't bother you, you're not trans. Because you don't have social dysphoria, you don't have body dysphoria, so you have literally no reason to be calling yourself transgender. And the reason I have a problem with this, and I understand that everybody should be allowed to present how they want, but not everybody should be allowed to identify as transgender. That's like saying everybody should be allowed to say they have depression and everyone should be allowed to say they have ADHD. That's a mockery of people who are actually transgender and actually have gender dysphoria. There's a difference between presenting as a feminine trans guy like this. Here's an example of Ian Alexander at some awards show. I don't know, he looks fucking good as shit. He's presenting in a feminine way, but he still looks male. He knew how to balance out because he has dysphoria. He wants to pass as a male. And now, I don't speak for Ian Alexander, but that's the way I see it, okay? But then you have somebody like Rin, who and I don't care talking about Rin anymore. This is not presenting as male. This is presenting as female. Feminine, male, you can still tell that this person is male even though they present feminine, and female. And then a lot of people use this excuse, well, if Jeffree Star or Manny MUA can be super feminine guys, then why can't a trans guy do it? And you are completely correct. But the difference is, Jeffree Star and Manny MUA, I don't know, that's just people that people have said, they don't look like women. They don't go around in society being called she all the time. I didn't word this very well in the video. What I was trying to say is that people like Jeffree Star, even if they were presenting as female rather than feminine and getting called she, it would bother them less. And you know what? Who's to say that if people started calling those feminine guys she, they would stop? Because if you start getting referred to as the other gender, as a gender you don't identify as, and you're going to get dysphoria. That's why trans people get dysphoria, because our brain is one gender and our body is another. And people refer to us as another. So if a cis person, and I've literally heard this from cis people, they get uncomfortable when people call them the pronouns of the gender that they don't identify with. It's not like people are going around calling Jeffree Star a she just because he presents feminine. That's what I was trying to say. It's completely fine for trans guys to wear makeup, paint your nails, clothing. It's not gendered, okay? clothing, makeup, hair, all of those things that are like gendered are socially constructed. But gender itself is not socially constructed. All the SJWs, their dream is for someone to prove that gender and being transgender is social. It's not innate. You're transgender because, I don't know, what's the argument for it? Is that like, you know, in society you're forced to be one way, but you don't want to be that way? Like, no, that's not what makes you trans. You are either born trans or not born trans, okay? I don't care if you are trans non-binary. I don't care if you are trans binary, okay? You are born that way. It doesn't matter if you showed signs at an early age. It doesn't matter if you showed signs at age 90. I don't fucking know, okay? Dysphoria affects people differently, but it still has to be there. All of us are different in the way that our brains are wired and in the way that we can deal with situations, but if you are completely comfortable with being called a she, now there's a difference between being distressed and there's a difference between feeling disconnected. Both of them are dysphoria. I never hated my body. I knew it was wrong. Dysphoria isn't as much hating. I feel like I hate my body more now because I know what it could be and I know how much happier I would be with like a dick. But back in the day, it wasn't so much that I hated my body. It was more so that I just knew it was wrong, and I knew that my body should have been a male's body, and I've known that since I was 5 years old, and I was telling my mom my name should be Kyle and taking my shirt off with the other boys when I was outside playing. Now, not everybody has that experience, but if you don't have that dysphoria at all, you're just not trans. It's so illogical, the things that these people say, and it's such a fantasy. It's like they just want trans to be political. I'm done with trans becoming this political statement, this fashion statement. For so many of us, it is hell. It is not fun. Dysphoria is literally the worst shit ever. So I don't understand all these people. They don't understand. They're just fueling transphobia by making it into a political statement and by making it into a fashion statement and by saying society is the reason that you're trans. That literally gives transphobes reason to say, well, you're choosing. If you're not born with dysphoria and if you don't need dysphoria to be trans, you're choosing to be trans and therefore we're not going to support you. So you can say all you want that what I'm doing is harming the trans community, but I'm sorry. I would rather sit on YouTube.com and make videos calling out the absolute bullshit people who do not have dysphoria, and it's like people who would go on Tumblr and say that they have depression or say they have anxiety even though they didn't, just because they were kind of sad or they were kind of nervous about things sometimes. Like, everybody gets sad sometimes. Everybody gets nervous sometimes. That doesn't mean that you actually have something innately different about you in your brain. Just because you're uncomfortable with your boobs sometimes doesn't mean that you're a trans guy. Just because you're uncomfortable with your height sometimes doesn't mean that you're a trans woman. It goes both ways. Here's a trans woman. She presents pretty masculine a lot of the times when it comes to like clothes and things, but she still looks like a woman because she wants to pass as a woman. But then you have somebody like a Locke who literally does nothing to actually present as a woman. Okay, like, clothes are not gender. It doesn't matter what you wear. There's a way that you can at least try to pass as the gender that you identify as. Because if you didn't want to pass as the gender you identify as, you're saying that you're comfortable being called by the wrong pronouns, you're comfortable with people misgendering you, and that's just literally saying that you don't have dysphoria. Like, it's just so stupid, all of it. Here's the worst part of it all. One day, all of these people who are being trans, either because, number one, they think of it as a cool thing to be, or just because, and I think, you know what, honestly, most people that are transgenders are not even doing it for attention. There's a small group of people that are doing it for attention, but nowadays, the media and all of these trans people that are just fucking psycho, okay, and want to turn it into a political statement, they convince people that just because they're gender non-conforming, they're trans. They convince people of that. You have these stories of people saying, well, I was confused by, you know, this person telling me that I'm trans just because I liked wearing boys' clothes. Like, everything that the people on the SJW side of the trans community say is so hypocritical and just so stupid and so illogical. I can combat anything that they have to say with logic and with science. It's just stupid, okay? And transgender, trend, okay? It's a stupid term in and of itself because number one, it sounds stupid, and number two, again, not everybody is being transgender when they're not for a trend. I also really quickly wanted to add that with the whole like transgender is a stupid word thing, I do agree with that, but we don't have another word to use, okay? You can't deny that transgenders are a real thing, and if you think they're not a real thing, go watch my video explaining why they're not. I shouldn't even have to explain, okay? But there is no better word for it. So if somebody would like to come up with a better word to explain people that are trans because they're either doing it for attention or influenced by the media and influenced just because they're gender non-conforming and confused, let me know. Give me a new term, and I will fucking use it. I will fucking use the new term, okay? Please. Thank you. Goodbye. The way that I like to think about it is that transgenders are people that are influenced to be trans because being trans is trendy nowadays. That includes people who do it for attention, that includes people who do it for social media gain, but that also includes people who see trans people on TV, and they are convinced that they're trans just because those people are saying that it's gender non-conforming. Being trans is so popular nowadays that they try to make it seem like anybody can be trans. I saw this tweet the other day that was so fucking bad. Like, it was like, imagine how many gay people are actually trans because being trans is literally just not being cis. Like, no. Those people are just gay. They're just males who are kind of feminine or females who are kind of masculine. The difference between trans and gender nonconforming is dysphoria. You can't just be gender nonconforming and be trans. You have to have dysphoria to be trans. There's no reason for you to call yourself trans if you don't have dysphoria. And I will say that until the day I die. I don't care if I hurt people's feelings, and I'm sorry if I come across as angry, but it really fucking hurts my feelings, and it really, really, really bothers me that society is slowly going farther away from what the actual meaning of being trans is, which is people who are just struggling with this innate, whatever you want to say, it's a mental illness, medical condition. Your brain is one gender, your body is another, and we have to overcome all these struggles. But to these people that cut their hair off, dye it pink, wear a hoodie and a skirt and say that they're trans, or grow out a beard and then wear a dress and say they're trans, okay? It goes both ways. People say, Kalvin hates feminine people. No, I don't hate anybody, but I don't like anybody that says they're trans just because it's trendy or they're influenced that they're trans because they're gender non-conforming. It's fucked up, it's not helpful, and really, you're just making the trans community look like a bunch of fucking idiots, and that's why cis people hate us. And you know what? I'm not a cis bootlicker. That's another thing they say. You want to make fun of the word trans trender? How about you make fun of the fact that you always call us cis bootlickers? You know what? I do want cis people to understand me. I want cis people to see that I'm actually struggling with something and that I actually have a real thing. Like, being trans is a real thing. It's not socially constructed, okay, guys? Let's get that through our head. Like, I'm actually getting mad right now. My chameleon is, like, watching me. But yeah, I'm over it. Like, part of me wants to completely delete my existence off the internet and be stealth and not fucking associate. Like, I'm at that point where if this goes farther, I'm done associating with trans people. I don't want to be associated with the trans community because it's so bad. Like, it's just one day actual trans people are gonna be left with the wreckage of this movement. It's like emo on Tumblr in the 2000s, okay? On Tumblr in the 2000s, it was super popular to be depressed, have anxiety, be emo. Nowadays, it's popular to say that you're trans just because you're gender non-conforming, and in 5 to 10 years, a bunch of these girls that think they're non-binary or trans just because they don't like having a large chest or just because they want to be taller, who think they're trans, are gonna just realize that they're girls, get married, have kids, and live their life dysphoria free, and the rest of us are gonna be left looking like fools. And the same goes for AMAB people too, okay? It's messed up, I'm over it, and yes, I think that trans guys can be feminine. I will paint my nails for my next fucking video, okay? If you want me to paint my fucking nails for the next video, I will do it. But the difference is, if I put makeup on and nail polish on, I still look like a male. You know, it's one thing if you make an attempt to pass and you just can't. I was watching one of Ashton Daniels' videos the other day. He mentioned that, like, he likes to wear makeup, and for some reason he was having trouble passing, you know, even though he's on T at top surgery. I'm not talking about people like that, okay? Like, Ashton Daniel likes presenting feminine. Good for him, you know? And, like, I don't think he's a transgender. I don't. But even him, like, he shaved his hair off and said, like, part of the reason for doing that is because he was getting misgendered when he was doing the feminine things that he likes to do. That's the way trans people feel, is that when we get misgendered, we feel just weird, like, uncomfortable, because your brain is not the gender people are referring to you as. That's why you don't feel comfortable. It's not society and all that stuff. It's your brain as much as you hate it. It's your brain. So thank you for watching. Hopefully I didn't miss too much. If you have anything to add, leave it in the comments down below. And I will see you guys next time. Peace out, guys. I love your face. Goodbye.